Hey, welcome everyone. Today, more than ever, the world needs voices that spark change, ignite hope, and drive transformation. Change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when individuals choose to step forward, speak up, and take bold action. Whether you're leading a global movement or making a difference in your own community, your voice has power. In this podcast, we aim to amplify those voices, share the journeys of resilient changemakers, and inspire each of you to recognize your potential to impact the world. Let's create a ripple effect together. Hi, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and today with our lovely guest, Missee Sue, we're going to be talking about rising from the ashes, chronic addiction to long-term recovery. Missee, my gosh, this has been long in waiting. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here with you as well, my friend, and I mean that in the most sincere way possible.
Thank you. Thank you. You and I spoke before we got on the call here. Man, you have gone through a lot in your life. And just I was reviewing the pictures, and I mean, it doesn't even look like the same person. And it just goes to show how addiction really changes us, just not from the inside, but also on the outside.
Yeah.
So with your story, I mean, where is it that you'd like to start? I mean, talking about rising from the ashes, you have definitely done that. I mean, I tip my hat off to you, girl, because this journey is not easy, and I know that just from listening to other people, not my journey, right? And I don't know it personally, but my gosh, I tip my hat off to you.
Thank you. You know, the first thing that comes to mind when you said you don't even look like the same person. The strange thing about being someone who's experienced that level of adversity, moving from psychosis and chronic drug addiction and incarceration and like really being blacked out many years of my life, like you can see it in those photos, you know, I still was the same person. I still had the same heart. I still had the same intentions, like good intentions. I was still a good person, even in those photos where I look like a zombie, where I look like a, somebody who's like not even home. And that's something that I always try to remember when I'm working with folks like in homeless outreach or people with mental illness or people who are, suffering, chronic unsheltered homelessness. Like these folks are still have that soul within them, are still many of them good people to the core of who they are. And they're just, stuck behind many filters of shame and pain and disconnection.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Whew, do my best not to get emotional here, but I just recently lost somebody that I loved and cared about, and spending 18 years with her and watching the battle that she went through. And I stuck by her for so many years because what you just said, that's what I saw. I still knew that person that I fell in love with was still there. She was there, and she still gave all that love back to me. Her love for me still never wavered. And years ago, I used to tell her, "You love addiction, you like alcohol more than me." And that's me not educating myself, right? Of that was my mistake of not knowing how this stuff really works. And it took me a long time to realize she still freaking loved me with every ounce of her being. But I knew that woman was there. It's like a shell had covered her up. It was, kind of like the little chick in the egg. It wants to break out, but it's just got this shell, and that shell is really hard for some people to break through.
Yeah, addiction is fascinating because in just the way that I perceive it, and this is just me, I have a, kind of maybe a unique outlook on it, and that's okay. I don't need everyone to even agree with me, but just for me, the perception that works for me is that for me, addiction was a spiritual, physical, emotional thing. And what I mean by that is that I really believe that my soul came to this earth to experience that level of adversity and to overcome it. And then on a physical level, like my brain was wired for addiction. This brain wiring overcomes and overpowers a mother's love. It overpowers, the survival instincts of a human to eat or sleep or to take good care of themselves. It overrides all of that. And so we can't really save people from what they came here to experience on a soul level. They need to have their own experience through that. And we also can't override the physical wiring of the brain. So there's two like dimensional aspects that you can look at through that lens.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. And you know what? It's work that you do and others out there, other individuals who are really, and again, this is my version, is starting to make a little bit of a shift. I believe, however, I'm seeing a little shift of people on the outside of addiction starting to understand a little bit where that stigma, right? We want to get rid of that stigma. And I've mentioned on the show so many times, Missy, you didn't wake up one day and go, I'm going to be an addict. Yep, that's what I want to do. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to destroy every relationship. I'm going to lose everything that I possibly have in life. Like you said, I'm not going to take care of myself anymore. I don't care about being a mom, or not that I don't care, but it just kind of pulls you away from that.
Mhm.
It's not like that, right? It's other things that have been happening in our life or something that's inside of us that is taken us to that area, whether it's drugs, alcohol, porn, gambling, shopping, work, food, whatever it may be, because the brain fires the exact same way, that pulls us in there to go, I feel so much better when I do this. And then before we realize it, we're down in there in the hole so deep, we're like, my gosh, now how do I get out?
Yeah. Where the cost of it is so high, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and the reward becomes so low, and yet I continue to try to make it work. Almost like an abusive relationship. That's how I hear people talk about abusive relationships. I've personally never been in one, but I feel like my experience through addiction is very similar in that I had this fantasy in my mind that it worked at one time, and if only I could get it back to that place where it worked. And no matter how many times I ended up in the hospital, I overdosed 5 times on heroin. I had abscesses all over my body. I was uninsured in Provo, experiencing unsheltered homelessness and housing instability from like 2014 to 2017 is my experience out there. And, no matter how many times I ended up in the hospital, I continued to try to have this thing in my mind, this fantasy in my mind that I could one day make it work again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, this is this whole addiction thing, man, is just such a freaking monster. Such a monster. And however, almost, and I don't know if I want to say almost at the same time, in my eyes, it creates a ton of angels as
Mm,
well. And what I mean by angels, I'm looking at one right now. I'm having an interview with an angel. I've got so many other individuals who I've interviewed on the show. I look at them as all angels. I look at them as they are the ones now that God has picked to go out and help others.
yeah.
And there are some, unfortunately, that are called back home. But
Mm,
yeah, and getting to your point to where you continue to look for that same very first feeling that you had when you first tried it, right? Because my ex told me a number of times, when I started seeing her really start drinking quicker. I mean, she just got to where she was drinking faster and faster. And I'm like, why are you doing this? And
mhm,
she's like, because when I first drink, I'm not getting that feeling that I want. I want that feeling right now, justification right now. And then
mhm.
she keeps feeding it. And then before too long, she's really gone way past that. And it's to that point to where she can't function anymore, and it's almost, I don't know if this is the right way of comparing it, but it's like that first time you have sex, you never have that same feeling again, right?
Huh.
It's something special the first time. After that, it's not that it's not special with someone that you care and love, but it's that first initial, I don't think you get it back. And again, that's just my version of it.
Hmm. That's really interesting. Yeah, I think that people end up chasing that to their deaths. It's kind of like just a figure of speech. It's a deal with the devil. Because the first time I tried heroin, like everything in my brain had arrived to basically heaven on earth. All of my pain was alleviated. All of my anxiety was alleviated. All of that discomfort in my body was alleviated in that moment. And there's lots of theory around why this is. And I like Gabor Mate's theory around attachment when you're young. When little children don't create the proper brain chemistry, when they don't have a healthy attachment to a caregiver, their brain never creates the oxytocin, the serotonin, that healthy chemistry. And so when you try something like heroin or your drug of choice for the first time and you arrive in that in your brain for the first time, it's deep biological addiction as well.
Hmm.
All the way back from not being, neglect and abuse as a child. So attachment clear from those points in my belief system is how my addiction began.
Wow.
So the biological aspects of my grandfathers were alcoholics. My dad is an addict. It goes through the family in my DNA as well.
Yeah. Well, and you're the one now that's broken the chain, right? Do you feel that you've had all that in your life? However, you have opened your eyes and go, okay, this is not going to be who I am. This is not going to be what I'm leaving behind. And you've actually broke that chain link and now you're starting your own chain.
Yeah, it's fascinating, Al. When I was homeless on the streets, I was, in my 30s. I was a single woman. I always say I wasn't really very good at being an addict or being someone who was unsheltered because I wasn't willing to do certain things. I wasn't willing to sleep with someone for shelter or drugs. I wasn't willing to hurt other people. And so the lifestyle part of it, I never really got. I had plenty of charges, criminal charges, from shoplifting and things like these nature, possession of paraphernalia, possession of controlled substance, some theft charges, false information, just like petty crimes. Um, so I wasn't an angel by any means, but I did have like a certain code that I wasn't willing to break. And that made me in a position where I was sick a lot and I wasn't really wanted around a lot because I wasn't willing to participate in things. Um, so yeah, I kind of forgot where I was going with that, what your question was.
Well, just where it ends up taking us, right? I love that you had a code of ethics, basically,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
Yeah, and this is where I was going. I came to a place where I saw many women lose their kids over addiction. And again, I have a really soft spot for that. I have a very soft spot for that. I've seen close members of my family lose their children to addiction. I'm very sensitive to that. People who are intrinsically wonderful mothers lose their children to addiction, not because they're bad people, but because the wiring of the brain overrides all of those tendencies. That's how powerful this is. And there was a part of me on a spiritual level who always felt like this calling to be a mother, you know? And so I wouldn't compromise certain values that I have, even in those spaces. I'd rather be sick or go to jail or, sleep on the street alone or whatever than break those values. I got sober initially with the passion and desire to become a mother and to have a family. And it was all of that energy that pulled me from the depths of hell. Truly. I mean, I went to jail 9 times in 2016 for petty crimes. I don't even have any felonies, but I just went to jail so many times. Didn't get in trouble enough to be mandated to any kind of treatment. Didn't have access to treatment because I didn't have Medicaid as a woman without children. I didn't have Medicaid. And in my mind, that kept me trapped. Like my values, the one thing I was holding on to was keeping me from getting help. It was very fascinating, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Please go forward with that because I am finding that fascinating because it's like a ping pong game, isn't it?
I I slid through every crack you could slide through because I wasn't a criminal. You know, I didn't have that mentality. I didn't have that criminogenic risk. I wasn't out there hustling and, trying to get I was trying to survive and I was getting in trouble for that, for petty crime. So I wasn't getting in trouble enough to be mandated by the courts to treatment. But I didn't have Medicaid because I didn't have children, and I didn't have children because I refused to with where I was. So I was kind of stuck. I saw many members of my family go in and out of treatment because they had children or because they were still on my mother's insurance, because they were young enough, different reasons, but for whatever reason, I never did go to treatment. And in my mind, I really believe that's what I needed, you know? So I went to jail for the ninth time in 2016. And that's actually that last mugshot that's right next to my on the top there in that photo. It's that mugshot where I just look like a zombie. And I was completely blacked out in that photo. I was not there at all. The cops actually pulled up to a dumpster where I was in the dumpster fishing out my old needles that I had thrown away, swearing I would never shoot up. I was done shooting up. But I had some meth and I had jumped into the dumpster to fish them out to be able to shoot the meth. And the cops rolled up to the dumpster and I ate like a gram of meth. And people can argue if that's a lot or not a lot. But for me, obviously it was enough because you can see in that photo, I was gone. And that was the last time that I was arrested. I woke up in the medical unit of the jail, which I woke up in medical many, many times for being blacked out, for not being mentally stable, for having abscesses, for whatever reason, they didn't want to put me in general population. Um, and I left that jail stay with the clothes on my back. They were actually borrowed clothes. I had like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle t-shirt on, I remember, and it's like some sweatpants that I had borrowed. And I had an extra pair of socks in my hand. And that was it. I didn't have a change of clothes. I didn't have a change of underwear. I didn't have a dollar. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have an ID. I didn't have very little family support. I had no social support, no social services, no Medicaid, no food stamps, nothing. And that's how I started on recovery. I started with the borrowed clothes on my back, truly. And I've been able to, with that desire of changing, like you said, breaking the chains and doing something different in my family and starting my own kind of legacy, or however you want to word it, I
Yeah.
use that passion to pull me into 12 step basically is what got me sober. 9 meetings a week for a year and sponsorship and taking every suggestion they gave me and all the things, no treatment, but lots
Wow.
of
You are probably the third person on my show
yeah.
out of 336 episodes
Yeah.
who have said that they did it without going to treatment.
Yeah. That was not my choice. Let's just be clear. I would have loved to go to treatment.
Yeah.
Would have loved it. I probably would have fucked it up because I had no idea how to do it, but I just went straight to sober living. That was the only chance I had.
Wow. So that's really how you got that first start is and sober living, I think helps so many individuals, so many
Yeah.
individuals. It's, it does help people kind of get to a starting line
Mhm.
anyway, from what I've seen and what I've heard.
Yeah.
Um, so that's really what got you going, is you found a sober living. Because I was just getting ready to ask you, it's like, where was your starting point? How
Yeah.
do you know where to fricking go? Because I just can't imagine being in the situation that you was at,
Mhm.
especially being a woman, right? It's a lot more dangerous out there than it
Yeah.
is for guys, because I know how worried I would get with my ex, and just I was in fear all the time. Is somebody going to grab her? Is something going to happen? And a couple times she'd call me, and I'd know where she was at, and I'd go to pick her up to see if I could bring her something or help her in any way. And I still had so much love for this woman, right? And I knew that I was enabling her every time I did it, but I just still had so much love for this gal, and it just broke my heart. And I just couldn't imagine being out there all alone, not knowing where to go, and just have no one else that wants to really help you because they burnt all those bridges.
Yeah.
So that was your starting point, going to a sober living.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a 4-month program. It was a stable place to stay. I came off the streets and I moved, actually, it was a sober living in Riverton. So I moved to Salt Lake County to get sober from Utah County. Yep.
Wow.
And I've lived in Salt Lake City for 8 years now. And um, it was a 4-month program. I had to go to meetings, multiple meetings a week for and I had just enough accountability. Some of the women there were complaining about it. They had been to treatment so many times and so many various sober livings, but I was grateful. I had a shower every day.
Yeah.
You know, I had a washer and dryer in the building. It was just like these little things that you kind of lose access with having gratitude for. It was just like, oh my gosh, I have access to a shower every day. What a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, and clean, fresh clothes too, right? Because a lot of the homes like that, a lot of people do donations, so you have an opportunity to get some pretty decent clothes.
Yeah, and the church, the LDS church actually was the only social support I had. They helped me with a voucher for like clothing. They helped me with just like the bare essentials that I needed, which was really helpful. They helped me pay for my sober living a couple of months too while I got my first job that I hadn't had in 6 years. I actually tell this story to some of my clients that I work with now, in that my first job in recovery was working at Blimpies and riding a bike to Blimpies at the age of 33, when my first job ever was at Blimpies at the age of 16.
Wow.
And so I was mad. I was like, what? Like I had to start at that kind of a bottom in the jobs and like work my way up to where I am now. It's really quite remarkable, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure you'll say this because pretty much everyone that's come on the show has said this, that the journey's not easy. It's not easy, but it wasn't easy where you were at either, right? I mean, however, it's definitely worth it. I mean, look at who you are today. Look how many people you're helping today. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. Was it easy for you, or was it not easy for you?
It takes a lot of grit to start from nothing. I actually came into recovery with $30,000 of hospital debt because I didn't have Medicaid and I was still receiving services. I overdosed 5 times. I had abscesses and different things I would go to the emergency room for. So in 2020, someone knocked on my door and served me a lawsuit for those hospital bills. And in recovery, I was sued for $30,000 of hospital debt, which I have paid off every penny of that. And that's really fascinating in of itself. But for me, it took a lot of grit. The going to the bus stop, taking the bus to the meetings at Alano Club, taking the bus to my job, taking, like being of service, picking up service commitments, doing these things. I took meetings into the jail, into the prison, into the homeless shelters, into the Weekend Center, into the detox centers, as service. Just being a part of something. And what I learned for me is that I really like the work and I really like the grit of it, So I mean, I just started with really simple things like getting my birth certificate and getting my social security card and getting an ID, and then getting my license and getting a job and moving from a bike to the bus and you know what I mean? It took me 3 years of sobriety before I was ready to begin working in social services and to begin my career in social work. Yeah.
And how long have you been doing social work now?
3.5 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll
So
be celebrating 7 years of long-term recovery this summer.
congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, and I don't think a lot of people who are on the outside understand what it does take to get your life back on track, right? I mean, we take, you said it earlier, we take so much for granted when we have this stuff. You know, I've recently had to deal with it, right? With my amputation. I mean, I see people running down the road or hiking, which is stuff I love to flip and do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what I would give to do that again right now. You
Yeah.
know, it's like I'm doing, I'm really working on changing my mindset is not to take some of our most tiniest little things like taking a shower,
Right?
like having a roof over our heads, like
Yeah.
putting on clean underwear and clean clothes
No.
and go, this is a freaking blessing. I need to be extremely grateful for that and not, I mean, look how many times, I don't know, at least for me in my past history, like if I was at an apartment and they had to shut off the water or something, I came home from work all freaking covered in grime and nasty, and I'm bitching and moaning because I can't take a shower. Well, there's people that haven't had a shower in 2 weeks, and I'm bitching and moaning about a couple hours.
It's
So
hard to I mean, it's easy to lose perspective. Like it's easy for me to lose perspective. Now I'm driving my dream car, right? I have like this top of the line Subaru that I've had my eye on for like 10 years. And just last year I was able to, get the car that I wanted more than anything. It's a beautiful car. I live in a nice little space. I have a job that I never even imagined that I could have. I'm a licensed substance use disorder counselor, and I've been doing that for about 9 months. I'm a new clinician. I did peer support specialist for 2 years before that, 2.5 years before that. Um, and I'm going to the University of Utah right now in the Bachelor's of Social Work program, and I'll be graduating with that in 2026, and then jumping into the Master's of Social Work program and graduating that in 2027. And then I'll be working towards my license of clinical social work so that I can be a therapist to really help people with addiction and mental health and complex trauma. Because I was 4 years into my recovery before I even received my complex PTSD diagnosis and saw a therapist for the first time. And that revolutionized my entire approach to how I view recovery and how I realized that recovery is so much more complex than just being sober or
yeah,
abstaining from substance. For someone like me, it's incredibly more complex than that.
yeah. My gosh, I love what you're doing, thinking ahead, right? This is what you're going after. I mean, you're already made some things already happen in
Yeah.
your life, which goes to show you can get a life back after addiction. And I would say 99.9% of the time, the people I've interviewed said their life is better today than it was way before, back then. And some of them came from very, very nice homes, nice families, some not so much. Some had everything they ever wanted.
Yeah.
So, but to hear them say today, my life is so amazing to where it is today. And, and I think addiction teaches something, teaches us something really deep about ourselves. At least it has for me. I battled an 8 year weekend cocaine and alcohol. It was only on weekends. My job was like my number one priority. So, but on Fridays, man, I was on the phone with my guy. I'm off at 3. Where can we meet? Go pick up my stuff, go to the liquor store, grab a fifth, go home, mix a drink, do some lines, go out and do my yard work.
Yeah.
Usually I was feeling pretty good by the time my wife got home, and she had no clue I was even doing it. And she knew I was drinking, but she had no clue I was snorting cocaine behind her back. Even the first 3 years we dated, she had no clue I was
Yeah.
doing it. But I go back and I look at who that person was almost 18 years ago and what I've learned about myself today. And then also standing by my wife's side and watching her go through her battles. I have learned so much about who I am as an individual, and I have learned so much about life. And really, where I've learned a majority of how life needs to be lived is by individuals like yourself, Missy. And I mean that so heartedly because I remember coming back from an AA meeting once, and a guy, I've shared this on the show a few times, but a guy was getting his 10 or 15-year chip.
Mhm.
And he got it, and the first thing he said is, I thank God for making me an alcoholic. And I leaned over to my spouse and I said, that guy is fucking nuts. Why the hell would he thank God for making him an alcoholic? And then it took some time for me to realize. And I told my wife, I says, people who battle addiction get it. You guys get it. And she's like, get what? I said, you guys fricking get the meaning of life, how life is supposed to be lived, because you have gone from a dark, dark, dark place and you have stepped into a whole different realm, and you understand that you enjoy life every day. You're grateful for so many things every day when the rest of us are still running around in effing circles out there all the time, and bumping into walls, and we don't even really know where to go. You know where you're going. You've just sat here and just shared your
Yeah.
whole plan of where you're going. How many people are so freaking stuck and so miserable where they're at, but yet they don't know which direction to go? You walked out of jail with just the clothes on your back, and look at where you're at today. That's what I mean by that. It's like people in recovery can teach the whole community about life and how to live it and how to look at it. And I've become friends with a lot of amazing, amazing individuals in recovery. And I love sitting down and chatting with them. And I love seeing who they are. And I love seeing the glow in their face every time you talk to them. And it's because they wake up every single freaking day and they are so blessed and so full of gratitude to where they're at today. That's what every single person needs to do that walks this freaking earth.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that. I really truly hear that. And I have a vision for my life. I have goals. I have objectives on how I'll reach those goals, and I'm very determined and I'm very focused. I have my discipline is really on point. But at the same time, I'm a late bloomer, right? I'm 41 years old. I'll be 42 this summer. And I've never been married. I don't have any children. I, just barely financed a car like last year at 40. I'm a bachelor. I'm in the bachelor's program at the University of Utah. I just graduated with my associates last December. I'm late in life. So, I mean, there's some things that are kind of difficult in that way. And at the same time, there are blessings of that as well. I'm incredibly focused. I have my whole life ahead of me. I'm one of the youngest 41-year-olds you'll ever meet. I'm very youthful. I have so much energy and so much passion. And I don't have anything really holding me down. I have my whole life ahead of me. And that's a really beautiful thing. It's
Oh
a
my
really
gosh, it's so beautiful, right? Because who, I don't know, is there a manual out there that we signed when we were younger saying you have to be at a certain place in your life by a certain age? I mean, really,
well,
success can come to us at any time. You know, when I was first starting my journey about a year or two into it, I somebody asked me what my vision was for myself. And I mean, I had never had anybody ask me that because when I lost my job due to my addiction, I didn't really know where to start. And I was still kind of just, I was just opening whatever door I could frickin' find just to walk in to see where it was leading. And I didn't have that vision, but when I started kind of going, oh well, this is where I'd like to be, and um, I don't know what my why is yet. I haven't figured out my why, and I'd really like to understand my why. Right now, I'm just focused on me, just becoming a better me, and I'd like to be financially secure, which I've never really been. I've worked my ass off. I had my house, I had nice vehicles, I had certain toys and things, but again, that's just material stuff, right? It's just stuff that does make us happy, but really that's not what life is all about. Material things to make us happy. Our life should make us happy. I don't know if I'm even making sense on this, but
yeah.
he told me once, he says, he goes, Colonel Sanders, right? I said, yeah, Kentucky Fried Chicken dude, right? Everyone knows Colonel Sanders, don't they? He goes, he didn't become a millionaire till he was like 65.
Hmm.
And I went, that's very interesting. So he taught me a valuable lesson that it's never too late. It's never too late. Whether you're a late bloomer, I mean, hell, you're getting it. You're getting it at a young age. If I would have got what you got, Missy, back when I was in my 40s, I mean, I lost my job when I was 45
Mm-hmm.
and I hit 62 this year. And it's taken me the last 18 years since 2009 to really start figuring a lot of this out. And most of my light bulbs didn't go off until a couple years ago, where all of a sudden things just started popping, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm getting it. Holy cow, right? I think I got this thing. Even though I know there's still more. There's more of a journey because I've said this on the show so many times. There is no finish line when it comes to bettering yourself. It is
Yeah.
a constant work, constant job. Goals, yes, we can go after goals and we can reach a goal and set another goal. When it comes to becoming better individuals, bettering ourselves, which helps better our community and the people that we love and care about, because that energy does transfer to them. No finish line. It's something that I know for me, I will continue to work on. And now, finally, at the age of, what was I, 50, 58, 4 years ago, I finally figured out my why. I finally figured out what my why was. So I'm a real late bloomer. 58, way
Okay.
late. So, but I know my why and I'm going after it. I'm going after it. And I've been ridiculed a few times back in the past of why don't you go get a job and punch a clock? And it's like, that's not what I want to do. And still at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to get caught up in that 9 to 5 monotony that the majority of us get into. And not everyone don't like their job. There are people out there like yourself who really love their job and love what they do. Now that I know this path that God has put me on, that's all that matters to me, and I'm going to I have to compromise. I have to do some things that I don't want to do just to keep money coming in and keep bills paid. However, I'm still working on what I want to work towards because I deserve it. You deserve it. Everyone deserves it.
Yes, I definitely agree with you. And I love hearing how you're kind of a late bloomer in your own right as well. Because look, man, like I did not do anything very traditionally. I'm from Provo, Utah. It's the fifth most conservative city in the nation right now. Very conservative culture. There's people who I grew up with in Provo who are 41, 42, who are becoming grandparents, who, I mean, just my whole approach to life. has been so, so, so different. And I got sober to have a family and to change all of these things that I haven't had the opportunity to do. And I'm realizing through my complex PTSD diagnosis and all of the things, like there's a lot of trauma I get to unravel here and a lot of things I get to heal within myself to get myself to a place where I would be, ready and able to step into whatever God has for me. But what I've learned at this point is I can't force anything, and it's really not up to me. For me, it's up to my higher power and how my road is going to unfold and how all of this is going to turn out. And all I can do is move forward the best I can with the passion that He flows through me every single day, or God flows through me every single day. We won't even say He, God, the
Yeah. Yeah.
Spirit. Yeah, because I have so much energy and drive, and that to me is a spiritual gift.
Amen. I'm with you on that one. Absolutely. I was a guest on a show last week, and the person interviewing me asked what gave me joy.
Hmm.
And I said it was a very good question that I've never been asked that question before. But then I started thinking about it, and it's like I really have. And my answer was my grandkids, my family, going hiking, right? That's just kind of where my mind was at. But this time, when I was asked that question, I was really blank. And all of a sudden it hit me. And I said, you know what brings me joy is for the first time in my life, at the age of almost 62, I love who Al Richards is for the very first time in my freaking life.
Awesome.
That brings me joy. And I was on a show before you and I got on. I was on an early show from somebody that I know back east and asked me to hurry and jump on. And we talked about spirituality. And there was three other people, Carrie, who was actually the host of the show, and two other guests. And I said, you guys, I don't know if it's been the same for you, but what I have found, at least for me, that when I finally fell in love with Al Richards, who I am as a man, as an individual, as a friend, hopefully one day as a partner for someone, my spirituality grew immensely. And I got so tapped in with my spirituality. I
Mm,
mean, I just go by where the day takes me, right? I don't force anything. There's times I've taken the steering wheel from God and say, I got this, I got it. And then a week later, I find myself in a ditch again and go, okay, no, I don't got it. Take it again. But I have really come to understand and how to be so tapped in. And I don't think I'm blowing smoke up my own rear, but that I'm so tapped in. I
yeah.
listen to that voice. I call it my Holy Spirit. It's like my Holy Spirit says, I don't know, reach out to Missee, right? Or call so and so. I freaking do it.
Yeah.
I do it because there's a reason why that voice is telling me to do it. And it is such an amazing thing to witness and to be a part of. And I'm so excited to see where the rest of my life is now going to take me while I finally have learned some lessons, right? God kept putting me through a lot of things over and over and over until I finally learned the lesson. And then I'm like, man, I am really a slow learner. I am just slow. However, it was my journey, right? I still had to go through certain things to understand why it took so long for me to get there.
Hmm. Yeah, I truly, truly believe that God took me through the journey that I've been through, the adversity that I've walked through, the jail stays, the incarceration, the neglect, the abuse, the homelessness, the chronic addiction, the psychosis, all the things, so that I could come out the other side and just be a simple example that you can do it. Like, what is my why? My why is I just want to be an example to people so people can know it really, no matter where you start, you can heal and you can create the life that you want and you can create a life that is supportive and helpful for others. You can give back and you can allow for your life to mean something and to have purpose.
Absolutely. It's never too late. And I love that you brought up, I mean, you mentioned spirituality at the beginning of the show. And I love that you did that, you know. You can come in. Because it means so much. And I know everyone that I know who has gone through recovery and has made it, because you know, Missy, we can't do it alone. There's no way we can do it alone. And whether we have a family member or whatever, which a lot of times we don't by that time, we have our higher power, whatever the higher power is for each individual. You know, for me, it's God. You said it's God for you. It just, to have that just really, I think, amplifies our whole journey of things. I like to say, you know, when I sit and talk to God, I like to say thank you for bringing me back.
Mm.
It's not that I never did not believe, I always believed, but it really, I just really didn't grasp the whole concept. And I'm so grateful that he brought me back to him, because where I'm at today is because of him.
Yeah, I hear that. I feel like my spiritual connection, even in addiction, was always intact. And my higher power and that connection to something greater than myself definitely has been a huge transformative piece to me in my recovery and keeps me moving forward and keeps me inspired and keeps me having faith and hope in my heart. Like I can't even conceptually understand or think of who I would be without that piece. I really have no idea how I could have ever made it out of that if I didn't have that piece. And
Yeah.
so it's so interesting, you know, to meet people who are atheist or who don't feel that connection. And just to see how they navigate through life. Because for me personally, I just don't know that I would be here without it. That's the truth. I just don't know that I would.
Yeah. I feel the same as you. I really do. I feel the same. And, you know, it seems like when you started talking about your journey and what you've got ahead of you and where you're wanting to go, you know, I watched your whole facial expressions just change. I just saw, not that they were bad before, but I just saw more of a light beam up, right? And just you can see certain excitement in people's faces when they talk about different things.
Yeah.
I can see the excitement in your face. I mean, you are really seriously 100% dedicated and excited as hell to go on this journey to see where it's going to take you.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the alternative pathways and different modalities in addiction recovery that will be coming to the earth in the next, coming to the mainstream in the next, 3 to 5 years, hopefully. And I really am excited to be on the precipice of just some cutting edge modalities and different things that we can bring to people who have complex trauma, who have chronic substance use disorder, who aren't going to necessarily just be able to sustain long-term recovery in health and wellness with abstinence alone. There's lots of resources that we can offer for people. And I'm really looking forward of sharing my lived experience and my, specialty around those concepts in the coming years as well.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up because really addiction recovery is changing.
Hmm.
I mean, the last 2 years, I have seen such a big change. I mean, on different recovery methods.
Hmm.
I mean, I mean, when I first got into doing the podcast, it was like, you know, AA or this recovery or that recovery. And then all of a sudden here, a few years down the road, it turns to, you know, what you said. There's different, a lot of scientific proof now that has come in and goes, okay, you know what? And we know, both you and I know, certain things don't work for everyone, right? It
Exactly.
just doesn't. And there's no way it can. I mean, we all wear different size pants and clothes. We all have different tastes, you know, so things work differently for all of us. However, there's more and more things that are coming in, and they're learning more about the brain, how it operates, how it functions. There's other different things than synthetic drugs, I guess you should say, that is now starting to open up, you know, to help people. Because I know what you're talking about, and I know there's things you cannot discuss. I know other individuals that it's worked great for them. It
Mhm.
has worked great for them. They're living an amazing life, and they're off of their drug of choice.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that still some people frown about it. And I know it's new. However, I don't know. I just look at life differently. You know, it's just if it works for you, what the hell does it matter what I think? Because if it's getting you to where you want to be, it doesn't change my life at all, you know,
Yeah.
and I do things that work for me, you know, so it's great to see. And I think you're spot on, at least in the next 3 to 5 years. I think we're going to see a huge explosion of so many different things coming in to
Lots of
help
new
people.
resource, yes,
Uh,
lots of resource and lots of accessibility to new resource. And my goal is to earn my LCSW, be a licensed clinical social worker. And if I were to have a say at this point, what that would look like here, it would be to open some kind of a center here in Salt Lake City that's just very niched and very, a little bit unique and a little bit new and a little bit cutting edge to the routes of recovery that we have available in Salt Lake City. And I would love to be a big part of offering people services that can really meet them where they are instead of this one size fits all. You're either in recovery or you're out of recovery and that's it. It's like there are so many nuances to this and we're all so individual. And we all have our own trauma and our own, flavoring to things that it's like to be able to create a model that encompasses all of that uniqueness. I think we are snowflakes. I think we should
yeah.
be. And I think it's a beautiful thing and it's a spiritual thing for me to really honor the uniqueness of each person. And I will never be a cookie cutter person who fits nicely into a box. I never will. It would crush my soul. It just would crush my soul. So I just love to be able to have that vision to hold space for people in recovery in that open-mindedness.
I love it. And that's exactly what we need. I mean, seriously, that's how I view it as well. Because again, we are all different snowflakes, right? We all learn differently. We all gather information differently. We look at life differently, you know. So to have a plethora of things, especially to have it in one location,
Hmm.
I mean, my gosh, how amazing would that be, right? To be able to go and go to a location, have professionals like yourself sit down with an individual and go, "Ah, you know what? I'm not for sure, but let's give this shot over here. If that doesn't work, we've got that. If that doesn't work, we've got that." But we're not kicking them out the door and going, uh, okay, your 30 days is up, your 60 days is up. See you later. Good luck with everything, just to watch them come back through that revolving door again.
Yeah, it just really, it's really exciting and it's really inspiring for me to think that all of my lived experience, every moment that I've ever been through in addiction and in jail and in psychosis and, mental crisis is not in vain because I can juice the wisdom of those experiences to really fuel my passion and create a project and an organization here in Salt Lake City, potentially that would just be medicine for people, not for everyone. And trust me, I don't think one person is for everyone anyways. Like that's not how this works. I'll probably be able to reach like a very specific type of individual, and that's totally cool. I'm not here to try to have everyone agree with me. I actually think diversity and difference in thought is valuable.
Yeah,
So let's just have some options and some diversity in our options for addiction recovery.
I love it. I love it. And I love that that's the way that you're thinking. And you know, I on this show we've had so many different people come on and share their opinions on things. And I do that for a reason, because it's not that I do that because I want to give that option to so many people, like our listeners, right? They may hear something that they didn't know about from somebody like yourself and go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think of this." So I love that you're looking at this whole thing the way that you're looking at because we need it. We need it. We need more of it, and I think we are going to start seeing some changes. That's for sure.
Look, life's difficult, man. Life is hard. Life is challenging. There's been so many times in my life that I've been marginalized, I've been, discriminated against, I've been judged, I've been stigmatized, all of these things. I mean, if you look at those photos that I'm sharing for this podcast, you'll see, of course, I've been living in Provo, Utah in those circumstances. Like, you have to understand, I understand what that's like. And no matter what anybody in this world at this time is walking through, no matter what, if you agree with it or not, like that's a human,
Mm.
and for us to find compassion and open-mindedness for that human is just so important. This us against them mentality, you're either with me or you're against me. It's like, why, let's all be different and unique and stand together. There's just something about that that's so beautiful to me. Even if I don't agree, I don't have to agree to have love for you, you know?
Well, and again, why is it that we do our best to try to convince somebody else
I,
how we look at life? Why is it? I mean, my hell, you're so successful. I look at myself as successful. Our journeys are completely different. Our beliefs could be split in half or totally way off in left base or left field. Who flipping knows? You
yeah.
know, the way I see it, at least on my end, is you got a heart and you got love and you got kindness you want to share. I don't give a crap what color your skin is. I don't care what your ethnicity is. I don't care what your religion is. I love you, right? And if we have more of that, we'll see this whole world flip and change in such an amazing place to be. And yeah, life is still going to throw us those shit balls. That's just part of growing. But I think we would see a heck of a big change by just allowing individuals to be who they are and also to lend more of a hand and have more empathy towards things. I mean, knowing that my ex was homeless, man, just ate me up. And just even talking to individuals and interviewing them on the show, I go downtown now and I don't make my comments under my breath like I used to. Now I'm like, huh, I wonder what that person's story is. What got them here? What's happened in their life? Now I'm curious. Instead of going, get your shit together. There's all kinds of jobs out there. Go get a freaking job, mouthing off. And when I don't even know that person's story,
Yeah.
that's what a lot of us still do.
Yeah. And the reality is that that person, that soul, it's a very complex why they're there. And it's not just one size fits all cookie cutter reason of why.
Mm.
It's very complex. And we need to just view people, in my opinion, as individuals who need an individualized approach. And that's why one size fits all doesn't work in recovery. And it actually creates separation. You're either in or you're out. Are you in or are you going back out? It's like, okay, hold on. There can be different versions of what recovery means to you. We all get to define our own definition of recovery. And I've had to learn that in long-term recovery. It took me years to kind of break out of this. I have to do it this way or I'm not in recovery. And, thank goodness I've been able to kind of find authenticity through long-term recovery.
Yeah.
And I don't expect everyone to agree with me. I actually don't expect it, so that I'm not disappointed.
That's a good way of looking at it. So we've hit the hour mark. One last thing. Do you have any words of inspiration for our listeners?
Any words of inspiration? I suppose what comes through for me is just no matter where you are in your life, no matter where you are, what kind of bottoms you've experienced or are currently experiencing, you do have the opportunity, you do have the ability to make a change. And it just has to intrinsically start from within yourself. No one can give it to you. The court system can't mandate you. Nobody can hand it to you. But if you have that desire within your heart, you truly can create this momentum that at first feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill. It's very, very difficult to stop the momentum of addiction, which is coming so fast in this direction. And just to stop it alone is a tremendous effort. But then to get it moving in the other direction, especially at first, is a tremendous, tremendous effort. And it takes so much effort with such little impact or reward at first that this is where most people relapse or go back out or
Yeah.
go back into addiction. And what I'm saying to you is just hang in there and hang in there, and one foot in front of the other. Every day, just keep doing the small footwork that it takes. And before you know it, this boulder will be moving in this other direction. And if you just keep going with it, I'm telling you, the world will literally sing. And all you have to do is open the front door.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That was well said. Well, Missy, again, thank you for your time. I'm glad we finally got together to make this happen. We've been wanting to do this for months. I think since last year we've been speaking about it. So I'm grateful that finally came to tuition. So um, yeah, I just appreciate you so much, and I appreciate the work that you're wanting to do, and also really tip my hat off to you for your success where you are at, and also for just wanting to go out there and help more individuals, because we need more of that. There's definitely not enough of us still, and there's a ton out there, but there's not enough of us out there yet to put our hands out and help somebody along their journey. So
Thank you for
thank
having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you again for all our guests, all our future guests, and all of you listeners. You guys are the ones that is making this whole thing possible. We are just so grateful for you and appreciate you a ton. And remember this, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.